I've been working as the night janitor at the Southridge bus terminal in Arkansas for 7 years now. My shift never changes, starts at 10 p.m. and ends when daylight breaks. I've grown used to the silence, to the echo of lone footsteps, to the sound of my mop sliding down empty corridors, but there was one night that shattered me inside. Since then, every time I hear the drip of a loose faucet or the screech of a rusted door, my entire body stiffens. I thought I'd seen it all around here. People passed out on benches, fights in the bathrooms, even thefts. But what happened that night? It still wakes me up sometimes, drenched in cold sweat. And the strangest thing is, I'm not the only one. It was a Friday night, not long after there'd been a personnel change. A new kid, Nathan, young and quiet, joined me for the cleaning rounds. We were headed to the southern wing, the most deserted area, when we passed the back restroom. He stopped abruptly. "Don't laugh, Paul," he muttered without looking at me. "Someone told me something weird, that I should never go into that bathroom after midnight, especially if the last stall door is shut." I chuckled. I didn't say anything, but I figured it was just another story meant to spook the newbies. One of those tales night workers pass around to kill time. We kept walking and never brought it up again. Still, that warning stuck with me. Over time, I started to notice no one wanted to deal with that bathroom. Even the security guards came up with excuses to avoid that part of the building. One day, I asked Mr. Harris, a veteran guard who'd been around longer than me. All he said was, "Some places don't need explanations, just respect." At first, I brushed it off as just talk. That changed once I was assigned to clean that area alone. That's when I began to notice it. The last stall, the one tucked away in the farthest, darkest corner, was always closed. Didn't matter the time, or whether the place was empty. It was never open. I've never liked mysteries without logic. So I decided to ignore it. That was my first mistake. Oh, and before I forget, if you're someone who enjoys stories like this, hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell. What I'm about to tell you, this isn't some urban legend. It's not made up. It's what I lived, and I still can't make sense of it. The back restroom isn't located in the main terminal area. It's behind the shipping zone, past a metal door that's usually rusted and hard to open. No security cameras cover that hallway. The lights flicker constantly and glow a faint yellow. The floor is lined with old tiles, worn down from bleach and moisture. It's a forgotten place, but for us night shifters, it's part of the route. I had to clean it for the first time on a Tuesday morning before dawn. When I entered, I was surprised, not because it was dirty, almost no one uses it, but because of the atmosphere. The air felt heavy, thick. A strange smell, like damp wood mixed with something old, hung in the air. It wasn't exactly foul, but it put me on edge. There were 5 stall doors, all of them open, except for the last one. Closed, calmly, firmly shut. I approached out of habit and gave it a nudge. Nothing. I knocked softly with my knuckles, just in case someone was inside. Nothing. Complete silence. I came back the next night, same time. Again, all the stalls were open, except for the last one. I checked for signs of use. Worn toilet paper, trash in the bin, water on the floor, everything spotless, perfect. Except that door, once more shut, as if someone had deliberately left it that way. I crouched down to peek underneath, but the gap only showed darkness. No movement. The routine became familiar. I'd go in, find everything the same, clean fast, and leave without turning back. But something kept making me look over my shoulder. The sense that I wasn't alone became stronger every night. It felt like the air itself shifted around me for no reason. One night, while wiping the mirrors, I heard the sound of water rushing. I turned toward the stalls, and the one at the end, the closed one, was making noise, like it had flushed by itself. I approached cautiously, holding my breath, and just as I was about to touch the handle, it stopped. Everything went silent again. I stood there frozen. A tingle crept up my neck, followed by a cold shiver that ran down my spine. There was no breeze, no open windows, but I knew deep down I was being watched from behind that door. That night I left without finishing the cleaning. I didn't log anything in the register. I just needed to get out. Sometimes you just know when it's time to leave. And in that restroom, every extra minute felt like a challenge to something unseen. After that, my habits changed without me realizing. I stopped whistling while I cleaned. I stopped listening to music on my headphones. When I neared that back restroom, I'd lower everything and walk slower, listening carefully to every noise. Then, something started to repeat. On multiple nights, as I mopped or emptied bins, I began to hear footsteps. But not like boots or sneakers. They were soft, almost barefoot, dragging across the floor, always behind me. And when I turned, nothing, no shadow, no ripple in the air, not even a faint sign that someone else had been there. I tried telling myself it was just fatigue. At that hour, your mind starts to drift, and any sound can become something else. But deep down, I knew this wasn't just in my head. One early morning, while scrubbing the sinks, I heard a sharp bang, like a stall door slamming shut at the back of the room. My chest clenched as I walked toward the sound. When I arrived, all 5 doors were open except one. Yes, the last one again. I pushed gently, still locked. I pressed my ear against the wood, trying to detect any noise from inside. What I heard wasn't a whisper or a clear sound. It was something far more disturbing. A slow, steady breathing that abruptly stopped the moment it sensed me. Like something had realized I was there. I took a step back, looked at the mirror, and something in my reflection felt off. I looked paler than usual, my eyes slightly sunken, and the mirror was foggy. There was no hot water running, no steam, no reason for that haze. I leaned closer and wiped it clean. Just before the glass cleared, I swear I saw a shape behind me, small, still, faceless. I blinked, gone, but my heart pounded so hard I could hear it echo in my ears. I packed up the rag, grabbed my bucket, and walked out. As I turned for one final glance, I saw that the last stall, the one that had just been shut, was now ajar. No sound, no movement, just darkness waiting inside. That was the first time I felt real fear at my job. Not a simple scare, but a deep-rooted sense that something was truly wrong. And the worst part was that it was only beginning. After that night, I realized I needed answers. I couldn't keep brushing off what was happening. If it was in my head, I needed to know. But if it wasn't, then I needed proof. Something to prove I wasn't losing my mind. One morning, after my shift, I went straight to Mr. Harris, the head of security. He'd worked here for over 2 decades and knew every corner of the terminal. I asked him, as calmly as I could, if we could check the cameras that covered the south hallway near the restroom. He stared at me for a moment, then rubbed his beard and sighed. "Paul, those feeds almost always glitch. It's not that we don't want to record that spot. The cameras just stop working on their own. They freeze, distort, or just stop recording for no reason. We've replaced the system 3 times already." I didn't know what to say. A mix of frustration and unease bubbled inside me, but that didn't stop me. If the security cameras were useless, I'd try something else. That very night, I brought my phone, battery fully charged. I turned on airplane mode, disabled auto brightness, and placed it on the sink, facing the hallway where the stall doors were visible. I left it recording while I cleaned other areas. An hour later, I came back, picked up the phone, and locked myself inside the janitor's office. I plugged in my headphones and started reviewing the footage. The first few minutes were normal. Silence, dim lighting, no doors moving. But at the 8-minute mark, I heard something. It was low, brief, a cough. I paused, took off the headphones, put them back on and rewound. The cough was there, clearly. It wasn't loud, but it was human. Dry, like from an older person. I hadn't coughed, no one else was there. I skipped forward. Then at minute 12, something else happened. The back stall, the one that's always shut, moved on its own, just a few inches, as if someone inside gave it a gentle push. Then it returned to its original position. No slam, no creak, just movement. And back, I froze. I watched it again, frame by frame. No draft, no shadows, no light reflections to justify that shift. It was unmistakable. And the worst part, there was no sound. None at all. My first impulse was to save the clip, share it, upload it. But something deep inside me, irrational, instinctual, told me that video shouldn't leave that room. So I deleted it, just like that. After that night, I couldn't shake the feeling that something or someone was following me after every shift. Every time I walked past the bathroom, I felt a tightness in my chest, like the air grew thicker in that hallway alone, and I still had no idea what was coming. That night, October 17th, is etched into my mind with surgical precision. Not because something shocking happened right away, but because everything felt like it had been slowly building toward an inevitable break. Like the place had been waiting for that moment. It was just past midnight. I was sweeping the waiting area when the radio on my belt crackled with a distorted voice. Dispatch to janitor, report of a strong odor in the south restroom. I replied with a standard, copy that, and headed over. As I pushed the cart through the long, silent corridor, I noticed something felt off. The air smelled different, not just damp. It had an acrid, more pungent odor, like old sewage mixed with expired bleach. When I got to the bathroom, I opened the door with my hip like usual. All the stalls were open, all of them, except the last. But this time it wasn't fully shut. It was slightly ajar, as if someone had pushed it and stopped halfway. I stood there, hand still on the cart. The overhead bulb flickered. A strange, irrational urge swelled inside me to push that door, to finally see what was inside. I took one step, then another, until I was right in front of it. The handle was ice cold, as if untouched for years. I knocked softly. Is someone in there? Silence. Then a sound, dull, compact, like something or someone had slammed against the inner wall with force. I jumped back. The cart wobbled. One of the bottles fell and rolled across the floor, stopping right in front of that stall. I bent down to pick it up and glanced under the door, and I saw something. I don't know if it was a shadow, a foot, or just my imagination playing tricks on me, but there was a shape. A dark lump on the ground, motionless. I stood up, stiff as a board, my stomach twisted. I backed away slowly, eyes locked on the door. The air was thick, hot, sticky. I had to get out. Outside, I leaned against the wall and took deep breaths. I didn't log the incident, didn't call anyone. What was I going to say? That I heard a bang and saw a shadow in a locked stall? I didn't go back inside that night. I stayed in the loading area until 5 a.m. When the next shift arrived, I gathered my things and went straight home without saying a word. But the worst part was realizing days later that this hadn't been an isolated event. No, that was just a warning. Over the following days, I tried to convince myself there was a logical explanation. Sleep deprivation, suggestion, the stress of the job. But one thing kept bothering me. That last stall was always closed, like someone wanted it that way. Like someone was making sure it stayed that way. One Sunday, after my shift, I decided to look through old maintenance records. It wasn't exactly allowed, but my friend from the department, Marcus, let me into the back storage room where they kept past documents, incident logs, repair reports, accident forms. Among dusty papers, incomplete folders and water leak notices, I found a folded, poorly photocopied page with no official stamp. I read it several times. I couldn't believe what it said. Date, August 21st, 2013. Location, South Restroom Final Stall. Discovery, male, estimated age 55-60, no vital signs, found curled in fetal position, no ID. Possible cardiac arrest, no signs of violence, area closed for 48 hours for sanitation. That was it. No follow-up investigation, no second report. Like they wanted to bury it along with the news. I read the date again. It had happened exactly 10 years ago. And the creepiest thing, no one on staff ever talked about it. As if they all knew, but had learned to stay quiet. I showed the paper to Mr. Harris, the guard. He looked at it for a few seconds, then calmly folded it again. That man was a homeless guy. We used to see him every night sleeping in the terminal. One night he went into that restroom and never came out. The cleaners found him hours later. No one claimed the body. They buried him as a John Doe. What happened to the stall? I asked. They changed the lock, kept it sealed for a while, then opened it again. No one wanted to use it after that. Some say strange things have been happening ever since, but no one messes with it. We learned to walk around it, not confront it. I was speechless. I didn't know whether to feel sorry for the man or terrified of what he'd left behind, because something inside me believed his death hadn't been peaceful. Something in that space remained exactly as it was the night he passed, as if his presence or his anguish hadn't left with him. That night, as I walked past the bathroom, I felt for the first time that the door was watching me, that it wasn't just wood, it was a threshold, a constant warning that something was still trapped on the other side, and whether I liked it or not, I was already too close to crossing it. After finding out about the man who died in that stall, I couldn't work the same way anymore. For a few days I faked being sick, said I was dizzy, weak, anything to avoid going near that restroom. My shift supervisor, Mr. Norton, didn't ask many questions. He just temporarily moved me to the loading area on the far side of the terminal. The shifts were tougher there, but I didn't care. I'd rather haul crates and sweep loading docks than feel that silent presence lurking in the back bathroom. For several weeks, everything was calm. My nights were routine, cleaning floors, swapping out trash bags, shooing away stray cats. I started sleeping better. For the first time in ages, I felt like I'd found a sliver of peace. But peace didn't last. One afternoon, I heard there was a new logistics supervisor, a young guy fresh out of college, eager to streamline operations. His name was Ethan, the type of boss who needed to show he was in charge from day one. He handed out new assignments on a printed sheet, and when I saw it, my stomach dropped. My name, once again, under night sanitation south restroom, and not just any bathroom. That bathroom, my heart started racing as I swallowed hard. I said nothing, I tried, thought about asking for a reassignment, going to HR, but I knew that would raise suspicion. What was I supposed to say? That I was afraid of a door? I returned to that hallway on a Wednesday night. Everything looked exactly as I remembered. The same buzzing light, the same bleach smell failing to mask the damp, the same long shadows cast under the flickering bulb. I told myself I'd just do the basics, check for leaks, replace the toilet paper, empty the bins and get out fast. I'd avoid the last door. I wouldn't look at it, pretend it didn't exist. But at 12:42 a.m., the humidity alarm went off. It was part of a new system they'd installed recently. Anytime it detected abnormal moisture or standing water, it sent an alert directly to the cleaner's watch. Mine vibrated with a clear message: excess moisture detected, south restroom rear stall. I had to go. I took short, hesitant steps, sweat trickling down my back despite the cold air. When I opened the restroom door, the stench hit me hard. Not sewage, not bleach. Something sharp, metallic, acidic, like rot in a place where nothing should be alive. The last door, of course, was ajar, and this time something told me that if I didn't go in, it would never leave me alone. I stood in front of the door, cleaning cart parked a few steps behind. The light above flickered like it was on its last breath. Every part of me screamed to turn back, to ignore the alert, to leave the cleaning for the next shift. But I knew that wasn't going to happen. The system kept a record. If I didn't respond to the alert, the supervisor would know. I pushed the door open with 2 fingers. It creaked dryly as it moved. The inside of the stall was pitch black. The ceiling light was out. Only a sliver of hallway light crept in, just enough to reveal that the floor wasn't just wet, but slick with something thick, dense, as if someone had spilled old, congealed cleaning fluid. I stepped inside. The air was icy. Every breath scratched my throat. I placed a hand on the wall to steady myself, and at that moment the door slammed shut behind me with a brutal bang. I spun around instantly, tried the handle. Nothing. It wouldn't budge. Not to the left, not to the right. I slammed my fists against the door. "Hello? Is anyone out there? I'm stuck!" Silence. No reply. No footsteps outside either. I took out my phone. No signal. Not a single bar. The screen flickered slowly, as if the battery was draining faster than usual. I sat down on the toilet, completely unsure of what to do. My chest felt tight, like something invisible had settled on top of me. Then I heard it. A whisper. It didn't come from outside. It was inside the stall. A soft, almost imperceptible sound, like someone slowly saying my name. "Paul!" I jumped to my feet, terrified. I started slamming my fists, my shoulder, even my knee against the door. The wood shook but wouldn't give. I shut my eyes, counted to 10, and tried to breathe. I told myself it was just my mind playing tricks, but when I opened my eyes, the mirror in front of me was completely fogged over. And the worst part, there was a handprint on the glass, from the inside, and I hadn't touched it. I don't know how long I was trapped. It felt like hours, maybe 10 minutes, maybe less. But when the door finally swung open on its own, there was no one outside, just silence. An empty hallway. I ran. I didn't grab the cart, didn't close the bathroom. I just left. That was the last time I ever stepped inside that place. What I saw, what I felt, it doesn't go away. Something inside me changed that night, and I still had no idea what was coming next. Since that morning, something inside me broke. I got home drenched in sweat, eyes blank with a weight in my chest I couldn't explain. I didn't tell my wife anything, just said I felt sick, maybe from inhaling too many cleaning chemicals. I went straight to bed and barely slept an hour. In the days that followed, every time I passed by a restroom, any restroom, not just the one at work, I felt a lump in my throat. I started avoiding enclosed spaces. I stopped using the bathrooms at the terminal, not even to wash my hands. I carried a jug of water and cleaned up outside, even if people gave me weird looks. At home, the nightmares started. Always the same. The last door shutting on its own, my reflection trapped behind the mirror, a voice whispering my name from some invisible corner. I'd wake up screaming, soaked in cold sweat, unable to remember when the dream turned to darkness. I tried talking to someone. I visited a therapist at the community center. She listened, took notes, prescribed me something for anxiety, but I couldn't bring myself to tell her everything. How do you explain that a door watched you? That a bathroom stall had left a mark on you, like you'd crossed an invisible threshold? Things got worse when I found out about Ethan, the new supervisor. One morning, I arrived at the terminal and noticed his office was empty. I asked around. No one knew anything. They just said he stopped showing up. No resignation, no message. He just vanished. A few days later, Mr. Harris pulled me aside. They say the last time anyone saw him, he was inspecting the back restroom. He had his clipboard with him, planned to mark it for maintenance, but no one ever saw him leave. I was speechless. Did they look for him? I asked. Of course, but there was no one there. Bathroom was spotless, as usual. But that wasn't true. Nothing was as usual. From that day on, no one mentioned Ethan again, as if he'd never worked there. His name vanished from the schedule. His things were cleared out. No one in management gave an explanation. I just asked for a shift change, said it was for health reasons. They approved it without question. Since then, I've avoided that part of the terminal, but deep down I know staying away isn't enough. What happened in there didn't stay locked up. It follows me, in dreams, in reflections. In that moment, when you're alone in any bathroom and the silence grows too deep. Since that night, I haven't been the same, and neither has the fear. I work now at another terminal on the outskirts of Fayetteville. It's newer, brighter, with cameras in every corner and staff that barely talks to each other. I haven't had a peaceful shift like I used to, but at least here, there's no bathroom at the end of a hallway without lights. Still, no matter how far I feel from Southridge, something clings to me. Sometimes it's a shadow misplaced in a window's reflection. Other times it's a soft knock when I turn off the faucet. But the most frequent is that feeling, that pressure in my chest every time I walk into a bathroom alone. I've developed a routine. Before opening any stall, I knock twice, like I'm asking permission. I never use the last one. And if I ever see a door slightly ajar, I walk away. Doesn't matter if I'm alone or not. I don't explain. I don't look back. The memory doesn't fade. Sometimes I wonder if what was in that stall died with the nameless man, or if it's what pushed him to die there. Maybe it feeds on silence. Maybe it needs witnesses. The new supervisor here, a young woman named Rebecca, once asked me why I always avoid certain sections. I told her I had an old leg injury, that stairs give me trouble. She believed me. Never asked again. I've thought many times about going back, not out of bravery, but from the need to find closure, but I know I shouldn't. This isn't just another story. What I lived was real. There's no happy ending to tell, only warnings. People think the supernatural hides in cemeteries, in abandoned houses, in ghost towns. But no, sometimes it's right here in the ordinary, in a dimly lit public restroom, in a door no one wants to open, in the stillness of early morning. If you ever work a night shift anywhere, don't ignore the small things. If something unsettles you for no clear reason, listen to that feeling. Some things don't need an explanation, just respect. And if one day you walk into a bathroom and see every door wide open, except the one in the back slightly closed, like someone left it that way on purpose, don't touch it, don't ask, and above all, don't go in.